The chair recognizes the honourable member for Killarney.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, while traveling in, I heard briefly some remarks by a member of Freetown. I don't know whether it was a rebuttal or a part of his debate. But Freetown, let me say for the record, I believe you pretty. And I know you're handsome. So those who doubt you, you have my support. Madam Speaker, I rise today to make my contribution to this defense to Amendment Bill 2025. And I want to thank the constituents of Killarney for giving me this opportunity again to speak on their behalf. This bill, Madam Speaker, seeks to repeal Section 18 of the Act to permit all Marines to retire at the age of 60. On the face of it, this amendment seems straightforward. I want to say that when we were in government, we had looked at this as well as extending the retirement for those of the pilots who were in a similar situation. Madam Speaker, it extends the retirement age out from previous prescribed periods to the age of 60. However, in the context of the recent revelations regarding the extremely high number of retirees brought back to service by this PLP administration, questions must be asked about the potential use or misuse of powers under this amendment. The amendment states, that, quote, 1, notwithstanding anything in Section 17, any Marine of the regular force who at any time has completed 30 years of service or such other prescribed period may, with the approval of the competent authority, re-engaged with the regular force for such further period or periods of service as may be prescribed until he attains the age of 60 years. 2, a person to whom this section applies, who retires from the Defense Force shall within 6 months from the date of his retirement, reapply for re-engagement. Madam Speaker, I support moving the Defense Force retirement age to 60. That sets it in line with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. This will allow us to have our experienced Defense Force officers serve longer in this great, recognized, established organization. And what this bill also allows for is the rehiring of Defense Force officers who have already met the existing retirement criteria. They will be allowed to come back and serve until they are 60. An administration more committed to good governance instead of politicizing our national security institutions would not abuse such powers. It would only bring back a few necessary officers who may have retired but still have a crucial role to play until age 60. Madam Speaker, Can we say that about this administration? That's a question. The question to the Bahamian populace. Can we say that about this administration? I fear that this New Day administration may abuse this provision.
The chair recognizes the honourable member from Freetown.
I'm reading the act.
But the act, Madam Speaker, defines competent authority not as a member of the political directorate, but as an officer of the Royal Bahamas Defence Force. The regulation designates it to be the commander of the Defence Force unless he delegates it to another officer. And so as much as the other side thinks that the Minister of National Security commands the police, commands the Defence Force, if they would read the legislation and the Constitution, competent authority here means the Commander Defence Force, not the Minister of National Security, not any other political being.
Madam Speaker, I never called Freetown's name. I don't know what happened to him this morning. Don't be too defensive. But it is a matter of trust. I don't trust you. The Bahamian people don't trust you. And you don't have trust among yourselves. Madam Speaker, I fear, though, that this New Day administration may abuse this provision. I fear. If you continue, if you listen to me, as I proceed, you will hear. I don't, anyhow. This Davis administration, Madam Speaker, has already brought back nearly 500 retirees. According to the information provided to this House by the Labor Minister, nearly all of them are making salaries and collecting pensions. We should not forget the many, I'm going to get into that. When I speak, I defend what I did. We should not forget the many retired public officers they also brought back at the beginning of this administration. The PLP is clearly committed to a policy of mass double dipping. And the country and the country must remember the massive wage bill running into the many, many tens of millions for PLP consultants. No wonder, Madam Speaker, no wonder the government has already gone way past their own deficit projections, including for travel. Facts. Madam Speaker, how many Defense Force officers does this government intend to bring back through this amendment? Question. Will it be a small number of the necessary people, or will it be every retired Defense Force officer they can find who they believe to support the PLP? This issue of retirees being brought back, is a sensitive one in our country. We have had a high youth unemployment rate for some time, and many people have stopped looking for work. The economy is slowing, given various events overseas. There are new worries about inflation getting worse internationally, as well as here at home. The growth that started under the previous P-R-E-V-I-O-U-S, previous FNM government is starting to fall off. It's starting to fall off because the PLP administration has no new ideas. Young Bahamians, Madam Speaker, were shocked to learn of the large number of retirees the PLP brought back on double pay. These young Bahamians want to know when it will be their time. The PLP, in its blueprint manifesto, promised a, quote, progressive youth agenda, end quote, which was just more public relations and big talk. They said they would, quote, ensure access to opportunities irrespective of who you know, end quote. Was this the policy they applied in the Bahamas mooring deal? That secret, lucrative deal to a company, a monopoly on 4,600 acres of prime seabed in Exuma. And Madam Speaker, I will lay more damning questions about this mooring deal during this debate at the appropriate time. So I want individuals to listen to the damning questions. Madam Speaker, if I had time, I would have placed one now, but I'm sure I will be questioned about relevance. And therefore, it'll come at the appropriate time. The PLP has betrayed the youth. The PLP has decided to cling to the old crew they have taken care of time and time again while in power. And some of these people are now enjoying massive six-figure salaries, while young Bahamians get a job in the public service or other state agencies.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Golden Gates.
Madam Speaker, I would like to address the statements that the member for Kalani is putting out because they're false. Yes, we have 450, which represents 1.9% of our public service, re-engaged retirees, 1.9%.
Say the number.
Many have been kept on by this administration, who were indeed retirees who were brought back by Kalani's administration. We didn't send them home. We continued their employment because they are public servants who are serving in capacities that are necessary. Oddly, the member for Kalani says that this administration does not respect youth. But in this same vein of these 1.9% of retirees that are returned, we have over 10% of our public service is now made up of young people under the age of 35 who were brought back in the same period of the past 3.5 years by this administration, young people who are hired into the public service. Other than young people being hired into the public service, we are securing positions for the young people that are in the public service, namely many of our 52-week. All of them are not young, but the lion's share of those 765 public PSPEP employees that were regularized are under the age of 35. I have addressed what St. Barnabas is speaking of before. The 1,200, if we go back to the article in the Tribune on January of 2022, where we addressed the 1,200 that they left in the balance, that is exclusive of the 765 that were. So since you want me to reiterate that, I shall. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we have programs where we have the National Youth Guard, all under the age of 35. We have the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Defense Force, Bahamas Department of Corrections, and even Customs, who have taken on, and Immigration, who have taken on classes over the past 3 years that are all young people in the hundreds. So, Madam Speaker, this narrative that the good doctor from Kalani continues to spew is false. The data, I don't go on emotion. The data speaks for itself.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
It's deceptive what Kalani is doing. He's supporting an act, a bill, that will bring back persons who've retired on pension and pay them. That is what the Defense Amendment Bill does. And as I pointed out, the precursor of this bill was passed by Kalani's administration. And if he was here, the listing that I produced that showed the people who the competent authority has continued, most of them were continued under his administration. And he continually overlooks that it's a judgment of the defense force as to who they retain and not politics. And so on the one hand, Madam Speaker, it seems very schizophrenic. On the one hand, they say we're to be cursed for bringing back persons on pension and paying them. Then we heard this morning, not only do we need to bring back the police and pay them, 200 and something are in the number that they quote, bring back Defense Force Marines and pay them, who are also included in the numbers. But we heard this morning we should let them serve even before 60. So it's very schizophrenic. On the one hand, don't do it at all, and on the other hand, do it beyond 60, that you do it now. And really, Kalani should know better. This bill is simply deleting the R40 that his administration passes. So he well knows that these Marines that come back would be counted in this number of retirees who are called back, just like the police are counted in the number of the retirees who are called back. They don't seem to like either. They don't seem to be able to make up their minds whether they want to support them or not.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member Golden Gate.
I also wanted to address the matter of consultants. If we look at the consultants that our administration has brought in, they too, the lion's share are young people. We have a director of communications, we have a director of investment, we have directors across our public service who are under the age of 50. So this narrative that young people are disenfranchised under this administration is absolutely false based on the facts. I remember there was a program in the Ministry of Youth, the Inspired program, that was canceled under Kalani's administration. So if there is a record to show of who is for the young people and who is not, let the records reflect that this administration is not only putting its money where its mouth is when it comes to the young people, but it's putting our support and our confidence in the young people in our country.
Thank you, honourable member.
I speak now? No, I ain't started yet. Madam Speaker, I feel today like I am in a movie house with all this popping up and down like popcorn. Popcorn. The whole gist is a matter of trust. And yes, Freetown, Kalani knows better, and Kalani also knows a lot. Some of these people, Madam Speaker, are now enjoying massive six-figure salaries, while young Bahamians cannot get a job in the public service or other state agencies. Young Bahamians want to know when the Davis administration will look out for them and give them their chance at employment. If the PLP brings back a large, listen now, if the PLP brings back a large number of retired Defense Force officers, what will happen to the current officers in the force who are looking for advancement? Will the retirees get all the senior posts until they are 60 and cause the young officers to be stuck in the same posts in their careers for years to come? Now, Madam Speaker, let me talk about the policy. I asked, there was a policy that was brought in under the Hubert Ingram administration. And yes, retirees were brought back. And those retirees, their pension was frozen. So they did not get pension as well as, allow me to speak, pension as well as salaries. There would have been a few circumstances where individuals were definitely needed, and therefore there would have been a few circumstances. My administration carried on that policy so as to avoid or minimize as much as possible the double dipping. There were some circumstances where that had to be adjusted. Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member
Is
for
a
Freetown.
patent falsehood. The police who were brought back by Kalani's administration were paid their pensions and their salaries, as were the Royal Bahamas Defence Force Marines. And I do recall getting quite a bit of money from the public treasury in the instance in which Kalani's administration sought to do otherwise and deprive people of their earned pensions. But the police who he brought back were paid their pensions and their salaries. The Defence Force Marines they brought back were paid their pensions and their salaries. And unlike him, I could get the pleadings from the other people who they were forced to pay, because once a pension is earned, it's earned.
Thank you, honourable member.
Madam Speaker, I did say, I spoke about our policy, and I also said there were some special circumstances. If the member had listened, if the member had listened, if the member had listened. So again, Madam Speaker, again, one of the challenges, a lot of individuals are brought back, when I get to that part. Again, I support the amendment to this law, amendment to the law, but many Bahamians fear that the PLP will abuse the law. Many Bahamians fear that the PLP will not be measured and judicious when it comes to stacking the government with consultants and retirees. Madam Speaker, I spoke about our policy. The policy that was introduced under the Hubert Ingram administration that we carried on. And still, individuals would have argued that they must be back so that they can train the young people behind them. But the argument, Madam Speaker, if they had sat in a post for 20 years and did not train them, do you seriously believe that it would make a difference coming back upon retiring to train individuals? I don't think so. Madam Speaker, I support the FNM's announced Project Fair Play in an effort to end the abuse of excessive rehiring of retirees. The plan focuses on reinstating the Young Professional Program, establishing a succession planning strategy, ensuring transparency in senior management appointments, advancing young Bahamian professionals, limiting the rehiring of retirees, ensuring public disclosure of retiree hiring, and ending double dipping on public pensions. The FNM is a party that cares about our public institutions and reforming government. We always have to clean up a mess when the people call on us to take over from the PLP. The PLP's focus lies elsewhere. The governing party is more concerned with pleasing its supporters with plush jobs and contracts at great expense to the public treasury. Now that we know there are nearly 500 retirees rehired, I wonder how many more the PLP intends to bring back before its terms end. Will there be another 100, or will it be 200? Or does the PLP intend to double up and add another 500 retirees before the next election? We are getting, Madam Speaker, into election season, and I warn Bahamians that the PLP will become more and more reckless in how they spend the people's money trying to hang on to power. They will hire more PLP consultants. They will give even more contracts to PLP business people. They will bring back even more PLP retirees. Madam Speaker, none of this may be necessary or for the good governance of our Commonwealth. What we will see over the next two budgets is the PLP's desperate attempt to hold on to power after an unsuccessful term in office. I don't want to see the PLP cause strife in the Defense Force via this bill. I fear the PLP will pressure the Defense Force to take back retirees who are their supporters. The Defense Force may not even want to take some of these people back, but this New Day administration is aggressive and will push the case. I again ask the Prime Minister to be reasonable with this new law. Madam Speaker, as this is a national security bill, I will say a few words on crime before I take my seat. When it comes to the issue of crime, the PLP has had a challenging term. In the PLP first full year in office in 2022, there were 128 murders. This was the second most in our history. This was followed by 110 murders in 2023 and 120 last year. Our country should have 20. Our country should have 20 or fewer murders per year based on international standards. We are far above that number. The Commissioner of Police, in her end of year report, noted that most other categories of crime were down in 2023. I hope, Madam Speaker, the entire force supports and defend the new commissioner as well as her deputies and assistants and other officers. Madam Speaker, the police force is like a family, and they should all act accordingly, protecting each other. I was impressed, Madam Speaker. I went on a police force walk on Saturday. I was impressed that there were more than 1,000 individuals, both policemen and civilians, supporting the police force. But what impressed me most was watching the movements of the commissioner, the new female commissioner of police, and her senior command, deputy commissioners, assistant commissioners, and others. They, Madam Speaker, were actually walking about, introducing themselves, engaging in conversations with civilians, with policemen. I mean, Madam Speaker, the type of positive engagement and listening on the side, the response of the individual speaking with the command sector of the police force. Madam Speaker, that points out to me that this police force, the commissioner and her senior personnel, has the support of the nation. And I hope that that support will continue not only throughout the nation, but also on the police force. So, Madam Speaker, observing their behavior and their movement and conversing with the populace that were there, I can say I congratulate the senior command of the police force. Madam Speaker, major crimes were down 10%. The country is pleased to hear this. We have also had a smaller number of murders in the first 2 months of this year as compared to the same period of the previous years of the PLP's term. I hope this reduction of murders holds for the entire year. I do not wish failure on the PLP when it comes to crime. All of my criticism of the administration has been for its lack of results on the issue. I want us to have a low murder count this year and going forward, as too many of our people have lost their lives to senseless violence. I call on the administration to continue giving the police, prosecutors, and courts all the resources needed to process matters faster. We also need to invest historic amounts in youth programs so that our young people choose productive lives rather than the path of crime and violence. And every dollar we spend on youth intervention is spent well on building a safer Bahamas. The PLP, Madam Speaker, should take some of that travel money they're spending on big trips, fancy hotel rooms, cocktail parties, and receptions, and invest it in youth development programs. Sadly, their priority is living their best life instead of helping our young people to truly live their best life. Madam Speaker, you know, when we had given the approval for the new cruise port, there were lots of objections and whatever. The revenue stream has increased since then. And many Bahamians are smiling today. Many Bahamians are smiling today. They who had invested in the port, Madam Speaker, here in New Providence, they would have gotten dividends in December. They, I'm they.
Confession is good for the soul.
Not they now, they. December. And Madam Speaker, this is now March the 19th, and they will get more today. But yet, it was considered a bad investment. And with the rate things going, Madam Speaker, with the rate things going, they will get again in September, October. I don't know. I don't know. But, Madam Speaker, in spite of the criticisms about the bad deal, Madam Speaker, I can say my pocket is empty. Truly empty, but as of the 19th, it would have something. It will have something. Madam Speaker, I support the Defense Amendment Bill 2025. I support our Defense Force officers and hope the amendment helps to make the force a better organization. I truly support the police force. I think they're doing an excellent job. I think they have established a great communication network with the public. I think the public, observing the over 1,000 individuals that were present, it was quite evident that the public, many of them young people who are the future of this country, obviously demonstrated great respect for the police senior personnel at that particular event. And I hope that respect continues throughout our society, because the police force can demonstrate the proper direction for the Bahamas. But, Madam Speaker, as I have 2 minutes, and I had mentioned mooring. I just want to just give a little taste of the questions that are coming. Madam Speaker, I know I have 2 minutes. I know questions coming, but the public just want to hear one now, and it coming back again. I know the Honorable Prime Minister will take responsibility for all press statements that are released by his office. Hence, I am duty-bound to ask him several more questions about the Bahamas Mooring Limited. Comes to trust. In a press statement dated February 23, 2025, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas stated that, I quote, Bahamas Mooring Limited, a company in which the government holds equity, has been granted a seabed lease to install 253 moorings at key locations throughout the Exuma Keys. Based on this statement, I'll ask the Prime Minister, please let the Bahamian people know how many shares, since he said equity, how many shares does the Bahamian government hold in Bahamas Moorings Limited? It's critical that you answer this question because any shares that our government holds are in trust for the Bahamian people. And please produce the evidence to show that the government of the Bahamas actually holds shares in this company, or the Bahamian people will believe that your office was not being truthful to them. The whole argument today is a matter of trust. Madam Speaker, I support them.
Thank you, Honourable Member Minnis.